What's going on, you guys? My name is Jacob and this is my personal training studio. I want to tell you guys a quick story about how I went from working in a restaurant to now owning my own personal training studio and growing a successful personal training business. Let's get into it. So exactly 2 years ago, in the fall, summer going into the fall of 2018, I was fresh out of college. I had been working as a personal trainer on and off for the last 3 years. As I went through college, I had a few personal training clients. When I went back to San Diego, I had a few personal training clients in the summertime. So I was really, I guess you could say, dabbling. It was my passion, but it was something I was dabbling in. I was learning about. I was trying to figure out how to build a business structure. I was trying to figure out how to build a growth model. I was trying to figure out how to be a good trainer in general. So I spent from the beginning of my sophomore year of college until graduating, so 2 years about, working on my craft as a trainer and also educating myself because I studied exercise science. When I graduated school, I worked in a small personal training studio for a little while, which ended up not working out. And so I ended up going back to being an independent contractor. And this was tough because when I left that studio, I only had about 1 to 3 clients. And I think at that time, my clients weren't even that consistent. And I had no structure whatsoever when it came to how to build a business. I just knew I wanted to do it. So with that, one of my clients, luckily, owned some restaurants. So they offered me an opportunity to work in their restaurants while I built up my business, which was always the intention. The intention was to work there part-time and to build my business part-time. So fast forward, I'm in the fall, I'm busing at this restaurant. And if you've worked in a restaurant before, you know you have to work your way up. No matter how much experience you have, you normally don't just come in as a server, especially when we're talking about fine dining or nicer restaurants. So I was a busboy. As a 22-year-old college graduate, I was busing and I had a couple personal training clients. And what I did, to make a long story short, is I worked my way up in the restaurant. I was an absolute pest there. Every day at the end of my busing shift or my food running shift, I would go into the office, I would check out, and I would say to one of the managers, when can I start training to be a server? Because I wanted to make more money and I felt more equipped and inclined towards being a server. Let's see, I ended up making pretty quick progress in there. A couple months as a busser, a couple months as a food runner, and then I got the opportunity early 2019 to become a server, which I was stoked on. The money as a server at this restaurant was actually pretty decent. I was walking out of there with $200-300 on a normal day, which is decent money. And so my schedule kind of looked like this. I would wake up at 5 or 6 a.m. I would generally train at 6, 7, 8, and then I would have a small gap to get home, get my restaurant clothes on, get to the restaurant by 9:30, open, train, work the restaurant and serve the restaurant until 3 to 4:30 p.m. And then on certain days, I would have evening clients where I was training at 4, 5, 6 p.m. So these days were grinds. And it was honestly, there was a lot of seasons where I felt like quitting because I felt like I wasn't good at what I did. And like, just to be honest, there was a lot of times where I was doubting myself and doubting this process. But didn't quit and I stuck with it. So I served in the restaurant from January to my birthday. The goal was, and I started to see an upward trend in the demand for clientele with personal training. So I started to get some traction with that. And as I saw my business grow with the personal training, I started to decline the shifts that I was accepting at the restaurant. So I went from working, 4 or 5 days a week to then, when I would get a new client, get a couple new clients, I'd go down to 3. And it got to the point where I was working 2, even 1 day a week because my personal training clientele was starting to expand. I had like 8 to 12 clients. And at that point, I realized that the income that I was bringing in from personal training was superseding the income and even the potential income that I can make at the restaurant. So it was a risk, which leaving stability is always risky, right? Obviously. And doing a business where there's no guarantees is always a risk. But I decided to stop taking shifts at the restaurant to go full force with personal training. It was a scary thing, but it's something that excited me. And I know that you need to get uncomfortable in order to grow. And you also need to put pressure on yourself in order to grow a business. It takes a lot of work because it's, in the beginning, just you. It's just you trying to create a growth model. It's just you trying to figure out how to make enough money to pay the bills that month. It's just you who's giving the professional care and service to your client. So there's a lot to learn. And I'm still learning, obviously. But okay, let's fast forward. So I leave the restaurant, great opportunity, I leave. I work consistently as a trainer and building my training clientele for, what would it be? 10 months, okay? In March of 2020, we all know it hit COVID. It uprooted a lot of people, and it pretty much made my business going from this marathon incremental increase, this very slow pace where I'm seeing consistent growth. I'm able to put money aside to a quick dip. Some of my clients lost their jobs. Some of my clients just got out of Dodge and went home to visit family. And a lot of people were just uncertain about the future. We didn't know how long this thing would last. Of course, it's still going on. Now that we're in fall of 2020, it is still going on. And it was tough. It made me think that maybe there wasn't a long-term solution for the current business that I was building. But I ended up finding solutions for my clients. I ended up finding ways to provide value with the restrictions of COVID and with no gyms at all. And so what I started doing was I started traveling to people's homes, which I was doing that already, but traveling to people's homes and literally training them in their living room with one pair of dumbbells, some resistance bands, and a yoga mat. That was basically it. And so I did that with a lot of clients, and then there was just, like I said, it was my business trend was like this since leaving the restaurant, up. COVID, boom, dipped, plateaued. And then within COVID, I started to see an increase. People were actually more inclined towards doing personal training now that the gyms weren't there and now that everybody's going insane because they don't know what to do with themselves. So I started to see, again, an upward swing with my business. And of course, that gave me hope. It got me excited. And it started making me think, well, what's the next move? I have this money saved up. I have a good amount of clientele. I have a good area that I'm serving here in South Scottsdale and kind of, the 8 miles surrounding me. What do I do? And at the time, it was the Arizona summertime. I'm traveling about 100 miles a day in my gas guzzler of a Mustang, and it's having problems. And I'm like, okay, what's the deal, man? I can't travel 100 miles a day. It's actually it's not costing me money, but it's costing me a lot of money to be doing that. Like the cost of business seems like it was not practical or not sustainable over time. Again, so a lot of this is like, and a lot of the growth with my business has been, okay, this is no longer working or this thing is working. How do we invest? How do we double down to continue the growth and continue investing in myself, my clients, and my business? So that's when I started looking for a studio. I started doing the research as to how much it would cost to start a gym. How much would all of this cost? The sign, the mats, the floor, the paint, the equipment, the rent. How much would this cost me to run? And I started to crunch the numbers and I started to get resourceful and look around at different companies that service this type of stuff. And I found out that I probably had enough money in my savings to start my own training studio. So it's kind of funny how it worked. I go up the street one day. This is the studio that I'm in right now is a mile north of my apartment complex on Scottsdale Road. I see they had 4 lease signs out. I pull in. It's 7 a.m. I don't expect a real estate agent to be on site. I call the number. The guy's there. He said, let me just show it to you. This place looked completely different. It looked like shit, actually. And so I saw it, but I was like, I think that I can do something with this place. It's close to home. It's decently cheap rent. And I think it'd be a great starting point for me. So I find this place. I leave. I go to head to train one of my clients. I get a call from one of my other clients. And they say, hey, we heard about your idea to start a gym. And we want you to know that if it's a loan, if it's a partnership, basically whatever you need, you let us know, we'll work something out so that you can make your dream real, a reality. And it was right after I saw this place that I felt really good about, because I visited a few other places that I didn't feel good about. So I'm like, okay, things are falling into place. And anytime you get that level of momentum, anytime you get that level of luck and things falling into place, not only is it an indicator that maybe you're on the right track. So I crunched the numbers. I got one of my friends who's in finance to crunch the numbers of my current business, to crunch the numbers of the expansion of the business with the current level of business, to see if it made sense to step into this new opportunity. And practically, it did. Practically, other than the fact that we're in a global pandemic, we have no idea what tomorrow's gonna look like or what next month's gonna look like. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, so fast forward, it took me about 6-7 weeks, and August 3rd is when I signed the lease. It took me about 6 or 7 weeks to get this place up to par to where I could start servicing clients in it. And I mean, I wanted to share this story so that, one, I can reflect on it, but two, so that it can be of value to people who might be in a parallel space. Maybe you're a personal trainer, maybe you are somebody who's just has an idea and you're trying to develop a business. To say, hey, look, man, you can do anything you want to do, and your dreams can come true if you're willing to work, if you're willing to take, the long route and take that marathon that is life and that is growing a business, and just take it in stride, keep a strong mindset, continue to believe in yourself, continue to get uncomfortable in order to step into growth and in order to develop something that is bigger than yourself. So man, I hope that this story was helpful. I hope that it was, encouraging to somebody out there. And that's the reason I wanted to share. So have a great day. Whatever it is that you want to do, man, you can do it. Just stay down, keep going. All right, take care.